Okay, so it's been about 4 months since last time I recorded one of these, and a lot has happened since then. I laid out some notes of what I want to talk about again, a lot of which is compilated, at least at the start. So a few competitions have happened since I talked about the ones in the last video. The first of these is the Solus Summer Comp. Let me go ahead and pull that up here. So on this comp, I was on team The Fish, headed by Glads The Fish. This was an amazing team. I think we had like really good chemistry, and it was like a really fun like team Discord to like be in, and it's cool to like meet some of like new people that I hadn't talked with at all through this comp. So we ended up winning this one as well. I was on a bit of a hot streak at this point because I had won like something around like 3 comps in a row, at least the ones that I like, tried in. I think the Solus Valentine might have been somewhere in there, and that one I kind of just like ended up as a free agent without like any real plans of going hard for it, but it was still fun. So I'll go ahead and throw up the numbers that everyone on my team did, as well as the individual standings. This is the best week I've ever done. It was a very relaxed method, so in that regard, I wouldn't necessarily say that it was like super hard week in terms of like the method that I was doing, but it was still an absolute ton of hours, and fighting against, like trying to stay awake was probably like the biggest component in this competition for me. I think I could even push it like a little bit more. I kept to like a very a relatively like strict schedule. I didn't really stay up very much like in a row in terms of hours. I tried to just like have a consistent amount that I was staying up, and then I would sleep. I believe I was sleeping 4 hours, anywhere between like 3 and 4 hours, and I was trying to do like 24-hour sessions. So I believe that ended up being like 24 hours awake and then 3 or 4 hours of sleep, which was actually relatively comfortable. I mean, obviously it's a very like up and down experience, but I didn't feel like I actually struggled that much in this one. And I primarily did defense castle wars. That's basically all I did for the comp. The other XPs from stuff that I was doing like in between the games. I think I was messing around with lighting like lines in the Castle Wars lobby. There's actually quite a few tiles that you can light fires on, and I was doing like bonfiring when I was really tired, which they buffed somewhat recently, so it actually wasn't that terrible to do. And yeah, this is sort of the catalyst for me starting to really like push defense. So the most recent upload on my channel was conjugal defense. Bit of a spoiler, but ended up getting that like pretty soon after fantasy, which is the next thing that I wanted to talk about. So I was doing a lot of Castle Wars for the past few months, which means that I haven't actually progressed fishing a whole lot in terms of how many like hours I've been putting into the game. A lot of them have been at Castle Wars training defense and not fishing because of the opportunity for me to finish it within like a very short period because of all the competitions that were happening. So the next thing I wanted to talk about in terms of competitions is fantasy. I was on the Chijampa Trap House headed by Darts. And I think that going into this comp, I actually felt relatively confident in my team. And I think that we were pretty strong. I think our biggest flaw was that we had like a very strong top half of our team, and the bottom half wasn't like super available, especially for the amount of hours that people ended up playing during this competition, because it was far more than I think anyone really expected going into this. I mean, anything below like a 100 week for anyone on the team was, put your team at like a pretty big disadvantage in the week because of how much was expected, or how like high the standards got for this comp. So I definitely did a few good weeks during fantasy. I could have averaged higher than what I did average, but I mean, seeing as I was just completely neat during this comp, I was playing like every week until our team ended up giving up. Albeit we had like, I think we gave up on the 5th week, and that was the last one where we like pushed really, really hard at the start. For a lot of these, it ended up being like really exhausting, even when the numbers don't look super high, because the majority of the numbers were done like at the very start of the week. There was one week where we just completely like, decided that, okay, this one just isn't winnable no matter what, so we're gonna take this as a rest week. But the other ones, we fought for at least like the first like 3 days or so, if not more, which means that like the effort put into the comp was very front loaded, so it doesn't really like look like an absurd amount of hours being played, but almost all of them were at the start and then tampering down later. I think I could make like an entire video covering fantasy, and maybe that's something that I'll do in the future. But going over to the average, I ended up doing above a 100-week average, which I'm pretty proud of. With starting in 5 of the weeks out of the 7 in like the main season. I think if I had to give, and the best week I did was about a 140 during the first week, and then like a 130 something like right after that, which was very intense. I mean, halfway through the second week, I was like, wow, this is gonna be a lot more than I was expecting. I think it would have helped to have bigger teams less teams, bigger teams, and have it be like a shorter season. And maybe a shorter season wouldn't even be necessary if the teams are bigger. I think that people just got really exhausted because with how it was structured, it required the players who had availability to be playing like every single week, and there was no room really for rotating players out unless you got some like really good picks at the end, which is what ended up happening for one of the teams, the Butchers. They ended up with some really strong final picks, which meant that they were able to like rotate people out if their availability wasn't as good like for a week, or if they just wanted like an off week, and that wasn't true for some of the teams. So the Butchers, as we speak, the finals are happening really soon, and the teams in the running for Legend Trophy of the comp are the Bay Harbor Butchers and the Santistan Shitlows, which going into this, the Butchers have a completely flawless record, so the Shitlows are definitely the underdogs, but I think, honestly, I think it's slightly favored in towards the Shitlows because of the availability of some of the players on the Butchers, as well as some I mean, with this long of a comp and comps in general, there's always some degree of drama, so that has led to some of the teams being weaker, including the Butchers. Alright. So I definitely could talk about fantasy in a completely separate video, but our team was out of the running around week 5, although I'm very proud of everyone on our team. I think people who played gave like a lot towards it, and it was really inspiring to see people on our team just like play more than they were like ever used to, and keep that up for like multiple weeks. It's really cool to see. Alright, so shortly after that, I ended up getting 200 more defense, and go ahead and throw up a clip of that now.
Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder.
Holy moly.
Children get older, and I'm getting older too. Oh, I'm getting older too. Oh, take my love, take it down. Oh, climb a mountain and turn around.
And that was on the VOD is from my Twitch, which is under the same, actually, no, it's not under the same handle. Right now it's Halcyon F2P, all in one word. But I'm going to change it back to the same as this channel, Halcyon_seed, when I have a chance. I just wanted to try that name out, and it's alright, but I think I prefer the full like RSN that I have. Kind of keeps like a consistent identity between everything, which I like. Alright, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was a video that Pawz recently uploaded called "The Old Skilling Methods Were So Good." And I wanted to reflect a bit on how free-to-play has changed and what my thoughts on it are. So I really like adore this game, despite like how much it's changed. I think that it would have to go through like a unrecognizable shift for me to not still like enjoy it a ton. Free to play since its release in 2015 has actually seen very little changes like relative to the main game mode. Although that might change soon because they're talking about incorporating a new player experience. Sorry if you can hear the cars outside. Which the stuff that I've seen on Reddit is somewhat disheartening. I really wouldn't want to see what the suggestions for the most part happen in the game. Free to play Slayer and free to play agility with only like the Falador rooftop course would be both of those would be really rough and not something that I want to see added. And I think that the devs are aware that people really enjoy like the state of free to play, and there's like a dedicated community of people that exclusively play it. So they are aware of that, and I don't think that they would do anything that would drastically shift the meta. I think that they might add some sort of like introductory PVM thing to free to play, which was what Scarius was intended to be, but they ended up making that pay to play last minute, which I think that Scarius would have been pretty successful in free to play. I don't really know why they did that. So the biggest gripes I have of updates, I would say I'll try and split up the major updates. So we've had the Skull Sceptre change, which shifted the meta from Earth Talisman RC to Body Talisman RC. That was very early on. And it's remained Body Talisman RC for ever since then, which I believe it was changed in like 2016 or 17. Very early on. The other major updates. People thought Camdozel was going to be really major, but it honestly wasn't. Ogresses, I suppose, changed free to play Iron Man quite a lot, but that's not a game mode that I've played like a super extensive amount, so especially not before the Ogress change. So it's not really something that has affected me personally. But I know that some of the dedicated free to play Iron Man that played before that change were pretty upset with Ogresses being added because of how just incredibly overpowered they were compared to the other monsters. Another big change, and the one that I probably have the most issue with, is forestry. I think that if forestry had remained similar to what it was on release, I would be a lot happier with it. I actually really enjoyed doing the sapling event and the roots, and even the tree ant was cool. Like you could trap them in a corner, and the little like ants that run around, you could trap them in a corner and two-take them, which made that event pretty fun. But as it stands, I believe free-to-play events are bugged. Like forestry in general is just bugged in free-to-play because the events are incredibly uncommon. Like if you're chopping alone, I think with like a forestry kit, I think you're probably gonna see like at most like one event every 3 hours, which is really not great. I mean, it used to be 3 events an hour at 301 Willows, and at this point, 301 Willows are pretty bad. It's people are just like little agents of chaos chopping every single tree, so they all like go down at random times, and a lot of the time there won't even be a tree up to chop, and since no events are even spawning, it's really not worth going. And as well as the woodcutting boost, not really making that big of a difference. I'm not even sure that the woodcutting boost is implemented correctly either, because honestly, you get more XP if you're chopping alone, and that might just be due to the frequency of the tree going down, but it feels like the woodcutting boost is really negligible if it does anything. And I wanted to talk about another update in this category that is pretty upsetting, which is the removal of wilderness combat mining, which was having like a kicking alt in the wilderness, which you would auto retaliate to in order to 3-tick mine, and you would never deal enough damage to kill yourself, since the alt was on defensive and had stats that made it so that it wouldn't do any significant amount of damage to you. So they implemented a change in, I believe, 2022 that removed this completely as a method, because they wanted to combat, I believe, boxing at black chins and possibly dark crabs. But this inadvertently, they applied it to all skilling in the wilderness at first, and obviously there was a huge uproar regarding prayer. It's not being able to use your bones while you're being attacked is pretty stupid, especially at like a multi-spot. Like the Chaos Temple or Altar. I think it's the Chaos Altar. Sorry, trying to figure out the situation with the snow here. But yeah, I think that method would have removed a lot of the problems that mining currently has in free-to-play in terms of efficient skilling. So as it stands, you are still able to do that method, but literally one person at a time can do it, and there is a better method as well that you can do on the PvP world, which is 2.5 tick mining, where an alt splashes on you while you eat cakes moving between the rocks. And this causes you to 3-tick 2 of the rocks and 2-tick 2 of the rocks. Or, yeah, I believe that's correct. So, if you're on the PvP world, you might as well do that anyways, and it feels a little bit troll to use the PvP world in general if you aren't doing that method. But the mining guild on normal worlds, where you would normally cake mine, which is what EHP currently is, are absolutely infested with bots. I think I haven't honestly gone back there since I did my mining day, but every time I've seen someone talk about it, or like live stream in Discord, they've just experienced complete unavailability of worlds due to how many bots there are at the mining guild. So as it stands, you're pretty screwed over for wanting to train mining. Your only option, really, if you aren't willing to deal with just bots and being ragged constantly, is to 3.5 tick mine in the wilderness, which is significantly slower than both of the other methods. About 5k XP or more, like 7k XP an hour slower than cake mining, and a whole like 17k XP slower than the 2.5 tick method on the PvP world. So you definitely feel disadvantaged when mining, which having access to the kicking ult again would alleviate. But I'm not sure that that change will ever be reverted. I think people have complained about it a lot in videos, and nothing has really been done. Possibly some sort of like Reddit post could maybe get some traction and get them to remove it, because honestly I don't really understand what the point of having players being unable to mine in the wilderness while being attacked is. Alright, so that's all the complaining regarding updates that I wanted to do, and I think that I honestly really enjoy most of the methods in free-to-play, and I absolutely adore the game mode. My main gripes are with those two things, which I believe is the primary things that Pawz talked about in his video as well. It's been like a few weeks since I watched it, but I remember commenting on it and talking about how the original woodcutting method, 2.6 tick, was one of the reasons that I started playing free-to-play, because it's a really, really cool method, but unfortunately it's been completely nullified by forestry, because not only is take oaks now better, because always one of the oak trees will be up due to how the forestry timers work. The tree despawn timer change also affects the 2.6 tick method and really like removes any of the reaction or skill related to it, which is pretty lame. Makes the method just like a loop instead of a really engaging like dynamic method. Alright, that was the last bit that I wanted to get in regarding that. I'll briefly talk about my favorite methods in free-to-play, because in a Discord I'm in with some other people, we were making like tier lists regarding methods. So for me, this method, Snowfire, definitely up there. I would put it at like S tier. Oh my gosh, people outside my window revving their cars. I would put Snowfire. I honestly really enjoy the 3.5 tick mining with superheating, so I would put that up there as well. And I enjoy both solo and dolo body talisman RCing quite a bit. It's unfortunate that method is also pretty difficult to do consistently because of supply issues and it being best on a PvP world where you can get ragged. But it's one of my favorite methods regardless. So yeah, just wanted to end on a bit of a positive note. There's still like quite a lot that I enjoy in free-to-play. And I think that it would take a lot for that to not be true. Alright, so the next thing I wanted to touch on is a bit of an IRL update. So I'm relatively young in terms of the RS community's average age. Right now I'm 19. I turn 20 in about 2 months. So I finished high school around a bit over a year ago, this one. And I haven't done anything besides, maintain like the basic stuff in life and play RuneScape since then, which I've honestly really enjoyed, but I've recently enrolled in a class, just a single class for now, but I want to like explore that a bit and the subject that I chose to take the class in is film studies, which is honestly something that I'm really excited about. I really enjoy watching like video essays regarding film, just film analysis in general, and that whole art form is really interesting to me. So I'm excited to pick that up and for that to start. Even though honestly, it might not even mean less RS for me because having very little structure means that I end up like oversleeping a lot and not really keeping to a consistent schedule most of the time, which leads to, like a lot lower days than what my free time actually could be in potential. It's honestly very difficult to fill your day entirely with RS if you haven't tried it before. It might seem like just the best thing ever if you're currently like working a job and wishing that you could play like RuneScape, or at school and wishing that you could play RuneScape more. That wanting to play RuneScape is very important. Like being taken away from it and having the longing to go back to the game is a very good driving force for having like motivation to then play the game and like sit down and just like chip away at stuff over the course of a long while, because you have something that's distracting you from it and then you're being pulled back to it. So if you aren't very disciplined, it's honestly pretty difficult to play like a lot of hours as a NEET. I think obviously this depends on your brain chemistry and a lot of other factors as well. But yeah, definitely not as easy as some people like make it out to be, or as like free, I guess people seem to think it is. It's a lot of one activity, and things always in moderation, which as soon as you start to veer away from that, it's definitely requires a lot more to upkeep it. Okay, so the next thing I have written down is ask for questions in the comments. So I think that the format that Pawz used for a lot of his videos, and other people as well, having like a Q&A in the comments is really helpful. So if you made it this far and you can think of a question, that would be great if you could write that down in the comments, because it'll give me something to talk about in the next video and maybe mean that my videos will be more frequent. And it would be fun in general to engage with the community a little bit that way, or the people that like watch my videos. I think that's about everything I wanted to touch on. Been talking for about 30 minutes now, which is a good amount of time. I'll probably cut a few parts out. But the last thing I wanted to include is a little montage that I made, and I'll leave the players' names in the description. But yeah, just wanted to include that at the end here. Aiden also asked me to. So yeah, hope you enjoy, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
You're too close to me, so close I can hardly breathe. I won't be afraid, you're suffocating me. Slow down, suffocating me.
and I won't be afraid. You suffocate in me, so slow down. Suffocating me, I can hardly breathe. You got to slow down, 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 down. You got to slow down.